Hey folks, your old pal keeping it country. Well, another episode. Um, I think what we're going to talk about is first and foremost, I'm so glad to see Ariana Grande, Shakira, Casey Musgraves, new music coming out and already out. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. I am so glad. So, where I wanted to go with all this was I was going back through. I listen to a lot of music anyway, but um, I was on my YouTube channel and I happened to click over and get into my creator studios and you know was goofing around in there and seeing my playlist, Kicks playlist. I was like, what? Because I don't ever really remember making it. Apparently, I did. Um, so I went back in there and I started, you know, going through it and seeing what was in there and you know what I was listening to back in the day and so on and so forth. And I was like, wow, this is this is a bit different. So then I started thinking, why these songs? Why was I why was this any different than what's going on today? And then I come up with the thing that here we're going to have a conversation about it. Post pandemic and then pre pandemic. Uh, Pre pandemic music had more of the music was more positive, had a more positive vibe to it, more uplifting, more, you know, go, 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 invigorating. Let's kick our heels up and let's let's have a good time. And then the pandemic hit. You know, everything shut down and everybody's freaking out. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And then, you know, we overcame that obstacle and come up with, you know, uh, online concerts and performances and, you know, everybody kind of got a better feel. I thought it would have turned out a lot better for the simple fact, as bad of a circumstance as the pandemic was, it was the first time and probably, and in some people's lifetimes, was the first time ever, but for others, first time in a long, long, long time that you got to sit down around the table and enjoy your family. And I, before all that comes out, and, you know, all the comments and stuff about, you know, I'm not a negativity person, as you. That's why I'm trying to do these. I'm trying to get things to spin around in a positive. Um, you know, I get not all families are skittles, rainbows, and unicorns. I get that, but you know, most I grew up with a mom and dad. You know, I didn't grow up in a divorced family. Um, I had my brothers and sisters, and we're still very, very close. Um, so, but it forced conversations, face to face conversations, and you know, um, you got to spend time with your family. You know, you didn't, you know, have to worry about the social media. You didn't have to worry about going to work, and you didn't have to, you know, obviously the bills and food, and, you know, the normal things. That's just life. I mean, you know, life is life, and it doesn't matter if it's me, um, X, Y, or Z, whoever, you know, everybody's got bills. Everybody's got to eat. Everybody's got to use the restroom. Everybody's got to, you know, take care of their own hygiene, so on and so forth. But, you know, I was hoping a lot of that would carry over. And unfortunately, well, let me back up a little bit. With artists, by having to use this platform, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, XYZ platform, social media, LinkedIn, you know, whatever. It got a personalized communication and an open line of communication, and the fans and supporters felt like, wow, I really matter, you know. They're actually talking to me and they're having these lives and we can chat and we can do this and we can do that. And it was going along really, really well. And then the world started opening back up. And then reality set back in. And a lot of the artists seem to have forgotten who was there for them when things were tough. Giving $1 here, $5 there, $100 here, $150 there. Because the world opened back up, they could start going back out playing venues. It became impersonal again. That leads me to the music. After the pandemic was over, the music kind of took a darker turn. And for the last several years, it's all been about who's cheating on who, male or female. Drinking my sorrows away. Just very, very, very dark overtones to, and in my opinion, and you guys have to understand, this is all only my opinions. Whatever opinions you have, hey, and I don't erase anything. So whatever you comment and post down there, it'll stay there. I you know, my thing is my opinion is right for me, but man, I get it. And I'm not trying to force my opinions or my beliefs on anyone, nor should anybody else. I'm just saying. So, and I think a bit of it took me a little bit, you know, of thinking, why is the music, you know, getting so dark and so dismal and so negative, Nancy and Richard. I come up with a conclusion for me. You know, all we really have to do is look at our world overall. You know, you've got the things going on in Gaza. You got the things going on over in the Ukraine. We have the same stuff going on here in the United States of America. The UK's got its own issues. The only one you really don't hear about too much about, and I'm not saying that they don't have issues of their own, because, I mean, countries are countries. They all are going to have their own issues. You know, that's our God-given right. You know, we have free will. We have the right to think the way we want to think, as much as some governments want to try to suppress that. But that's for us to stand up as a people and go, no, you're wrong. You work for me. I don't. It's not the other way around. Sorry, I didn't mean to get too political in there, but had to be said. Um, but with the things going on around the world, how can it not get dark? We are all products of our environment, past, present, and future. Simple as that. Um, our younger folks, you know, um, I say we, the older generation, and I can only speak from my point, from from my experience. You know, I'm not making this a blanketed statement by no means, but from what I see, um, our younger people have a total lack of respect for rules and regulations. And when I say younger people, I mean anybody from being born up until my age. You see it more and more prevalent. And when I say that, I get it's a negative connotation, and it's meant to be that way because when I grew up, and I know there's going to be a big upheaval, but just listen to the whole thing, okay, before you say or make form an opinion. Back in the day, when I grew up, it didn't matter if they were a neighbor, if they were related, if they weren't related, they were just good friends. We, as children, never were allowed, because of respect, to call an older person, and by what I mean by that, we had all of our friends or neighbors or cousins or whatever. We were never allowed to call their parents by their first names. It was always aunt or uncle. And it was always yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. And if you got in trouble, you got a spanking. And it didn't matter if it was your mom or dad or somebody else's. That's just the way the law of the land was. Well, then, and I get there are some abusive people on there, but you cannot blanket a whole world into issues of certain people. You have to take those on case by case narratives. And, you know, when people like that get out of line. But we have gotten so disconnected that we don't feel, and even the kids, they don't feel they have anywhere to go. They can't go tell mom and dad they're being bullied at school, or they can't go tell their elders that, you know, dad's beating on me, mom's beating on me, you know, whatever. We're just so insecure nowadays. You know, I tried to tell my children, and you can't talk the talk if you can't walk the walk, okay? So you cannot tell your children, well, you can come to me with anything. And then the first time they come to you, you blow a lid and you yell and scream at them and this and that. No, you can't do that. What you do is you sit down and you go, okay, and you listen. And if it's something, and trust me, I'm not saying it gives them a pass. You know, you set that precedent at the very beginning. You say, you can come to me with anything. But if in certain circumstances, you have to understand that there are going to be repercussions or penalties that you have to pay. You know, if they're stealing, or they're abusing people or elderly or younger or what, there's going to be consequences. But they need to know that they can still come to you with that issue to get the best advice that they can get. Whether it be, well, we need to go to the jailhouse and turn yourself in for this. Or if they're being bullied, okay, let me talk to their parent. I mean, and the thing with that is peer pressure in school. Oh, well, Johnny had his daddy come over and talk to my daddy, and my daddy said he'd kick his butt. Well, you know what? That's not the frame of mind we want. And that's not the way it should be. That's the way it is, but parents need to understand, and the trouble is because the parents today weren't taught respect. If you have another parent come to you and say, your child is bullying my child, what you do is you pull them both in there and go, what is the issue? And then you normally find out that it's about something silly and stupid and so irrelevant that in 30 minutes it's going to be over and past tense and should have been done with a long time ago. But because everybody is into having little cliques now, and that doesn't matter whether you're the music industry, you're the entertainment business, radio, life in general. People get in little cliques, and then they want to go around and see, oh, well, these are my rules, and we're going to rule this way. No. That's not the way I live. I live by the perception that everybody has the right to be respected until they prove they don't deserve that right anymore by doing something that's just unforgivable or for a total lack of respect for life or limb or people in general or animals. So that's where I think all of our dark undertones are coming, is because the people who are coming up and putting out the music now are the products of those type environments, and whether they were bullied because they were the geek in school that played music all the time. They sang. They were in chorus. They were in dance class. They didn't really excel at sports or They weren't jocks, and we as a world, and especially as a nation, need to go back to help thy neighbor. And by that, I mean, be supportive, be positive. You see a neighbor out and, they're doing something, they're struggling. Hey, can I help you with that? And they'll tell you, oh, well, I so appreciate that. Thank you. Or, no, I got it. But at least offer. I'm just saying. So, back to my original whole thing for this whole conversation was the music has such dark overtones is because of the environments that were these up and coming artists were raised in weren't all positive, environments that some that were raised in. And I'm not saying that everybody was raised in a bad. I'm not doing blanket statements. There again, you have to go case by case. Some were, some weren't. Some had wonderful. They had mom and dads, but then some come from broken homes, and I hate that term because, sorry, I shouldn't use that word. I dislike that term broken home, because it's not broken. Mom and dad decided that the best thing for them and their children were that they weren't to be together, because when they were together, it created a very negative environment. So they chose for their positive environment to create separate families. So, and kids look at divorce or separation differently than, you know, obviously adults. They're children. They love their mom and dads. Plain and simple. So, as parents, we need to work together with that other spouse, which, whew, that's rare in itself, because, you know, we get together and it's all rainbows and skittles, and then when it doesn't work out, we want to throw daggers at one another, and you shouldn't do that. I didn't do that with my ex-wife, though she chose to do stuff like that. I chose to stay silent because I knew the truth would come out in the end, and it did. So, two wrongs don't make a right. Just saying. So, if you do something like that, and you have, especially if there's children involved, and you decide to have a division, put a positive light on it. Okay, well, look at it this way. Now you're going to have two families. You're going to have 4 sets of grandparents, or, you know, especially if somewhere down the line, the mothers and fathers decide to remarry and have different partners. You get extra presents at Christmas time. You get extra presents on birthdays. You know, it's, put a positive spin. Don't make it a negative thing. And don't make it, you know, every time the other spouse does something that you disagree with, you know, don't say, oh, well, that's typical of the way your father is, or that's the reason I left your mother, is because that's the way she was. Don't do that. If the other spouse does something that you don't agree with, the ultimate thing is just don't bring it. Doesn't, you know, if the child says this, say, well, you know, that's your father's decision, or that's your mother's decision, and leave it at that and drop it. Don't make it a negative. Don't embellish it. Don't expound on it. Let it go. Because children are very perceptive. I mean, and that's why I say that we're all products of our environment. You know, I wasn't always the greatest parent. I wasn't always the greatest grandfather. And, you know, those will be regrets that I have for my life. But since I've come to understand that, you know, life does not revolve around keeping it country. It just doesn't. My life revolves around my family. My brothers and my sisters, my children, my grandchildren. And I'm assuming at some point it would be my great-grandchildren. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Tabitha? Caden? Anyhow, I just wanted to I really didn't mean to get into the other subjects. I was really going to go on to post-pandemic and pre-pandemic music. You know, the uplifting and the darker overtones. And I apologize for getting off on the other subjects. But yeah, the music now is kind of very dark and dismal. Um, there's exceptions out there. I mean, there's still people out there putting out positive music, and like I said, thank thank heavens for Shakira and Ariana Grande and Casey Musgraves, and you know, and um, even that some of that music isn't all uplifting and all positive rainbow skills and unicorns. It's about growing up. It's about you know you know yeah, I used to wake and bake, but now that I'm a little bit older, I've learned that now, well, you know, I thought things were great, but they weren't as great as I thought they were. And that all comes with age. I mean, we all get older, we all experience things differently. I mean, we all can make whatever excuses we want to make or whatever. The fact is with age, we gain experience, we gain knowledge, and if we're smart enough, we learn from our past transgressions and experiences on the things going forward that we shouldn't do or how we can make them better. So, enough rambling on here again. And till next week, this is your old pal keeping it country. Remember to love one another. Remember to be kind to one another. Peace out.